Welcome to our online event titled Why Design Matters: How a Well-Designed Website Can Increase K-12 Community Engagement. Our guest speakers today are three seasoned design professionals from SchoolWires: Gina Beisel, Kyle Taylor, and Amber Wolf. So now let's get this presentation started. You might be surprised by how much the look and feel of a website impacts communication and community engagement. In this webinar, you will learn from seasoned professional website designers about how design solves communication problems and why it's a critical factor for increasing your K-12 community's engagement. They will explain why design is an essential aspect in creating a great user experience that keeps your K-12 community coming back to your websites, and how this is achieved. You will gain a better understanding of what makes for good website design beyond just trends, tastes, and aesthetics. Our presenters today are Gina Beisel, Kyle Taylor, and Amber Wolf from SchoolWires. Gina is Senior Manager of Creative Services, and she's been with us since 2009. She brings over 10 years of web development experience to her design approach. Kyle is one of our graphic designers. After graduating from Pennsylvania College of Technology, Kyle was hired at SchoolWires and has since been perfecting his craft in web design. And last but certainly not least, Amber has been with SchoolWires for 7 years as one of our web designers, and she is passionate about designing a web presence for her clients that helps them connect to their communities. So without further delay, welcome Gina, Kyle, and Amber. The microphone is all yours.
Hi, how are we all this afternoon? We're very excited to be here. Every day we come into work, and design is such a large part of our lives. And a lot of times people really assume that we're coming into the office and we're painting pretty pictures, maybe on a piece of paper, if you say that we are working in design. But one of the really exciting things about working with this particular team and other designers in the field as well, but I think especially with this team, is that it's really all about solutions to problems. In my own career, one of the biggest piece of or what I've always been able to offer is creative problem solving. So easily say, oh, I don't even have a problem. This is really just the icing on the cake. There's no problem. But really, once you dig in to what web design is all about, it really is. It's not about creating problems or having problems that need to be solved, but finding solutions that you may not have even known there were problems to. I'm very excited to introduce today Kyle Taylor, graphic designer, and Amber Wolf. And the reason that I invited them to participate in this actual webinar today is they're both extremely passionate about what it is that we can solve using designs. And so what are some of the challenges that people with websites have? And that is, like we're talking about today, bringing the parents in, community engagement, and then that translates to, so I have this website up, is anybody visiting it? Why would they want to visit it? And when they do visit it, what kind of experience are they going to have, and how is that going to reflect on the school, and how is that going to reflect on the community? So with all that said, I really want to just bring you right over it, start talking to Kyle. He's got a few slides he wants to show you and talk you through some of the concepts that really makes a design work.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Kyle Taylor, graphic designer here at SchoolWires. This is actually my first webinar, so I'm definitely excited to be sharing with you all today. We're going to talk about a few different things in relation to design. We're going to talk about why it's important. We're going to talk about some principles of design, some of the processes that I use when I begin a project, and then also what are some of the benefits to a well-designed website. So yes, let's go ahead and jump right in. So when people think of design, a lot of times, like Gina said, they think of someone who comes in and pretties up whatever they're designing, and they really focus on the aesthetics and the look and the feel. And this is very much true. That's a large role of a designer, is to make something look nice and aesthetically pleasing. But when you dig deeper, there's really more to design than just the look and feel. To quote the late Steve Jobs, design is a funny word. Some people think design means how it looks, but of course if you dig deeper, it's really how it works. And that does really get to the heart of what I'm trying to say is, when you start a design project, you want to kind of find out the pieces and parts that you have to work with. You want to find out how they're going to work together and function as a whole. And then you also want to think about how the user is going to interact with each of those things as well. So that's definitely a major portion of any project a designer begins. And then once you figure out how the website's going to function and all the structure and form of the site, then of course we get into the aesthetics, the look and feel on the surface as well. So each project brings its own set of problems, so it's really up to the designer to think objectively and create things intentionally with a purpose in mind. Designers need to set out to solve problems and design solutions. So here's just a few different objects from everyday life that we all use, at least most of them anyway. So if you take a look at, for instance, the tire, that has a very specific tread on it and gives you great traction in snow. So that's a winter tire, and it was designed to be that way. It solves the problem of needing or having traction in slippery weather. Then we have the umbrella, obviously that shields you from the rain. It also has a nice little handle there, designed so that when you have strong windy weather, you can hold on pretty well. So we have in the top there that camera that has kind of a little swivel screen and an articulated screen on it, so that as a photographer you don't have to stand directly behind the camera for every photo you're taking. You can be standing above it, in front of it even. So it really solves a lot of problems that photographers have just by having that articulated screen on there. So by design, it solves problems. All right, so these are some different principles of design. So I just kind of want to run through these real quick for you, just to give you a better understanding of how each of these relates to design. I haven't memorized all of these, so I'm going to be reading a few of them off for you. So balance. Balance is the distribution of the visual weight of objects, colors, texture, and space. If the design was a scale, these elements should be balanced to make a design feel stable. Emphasis. Emphasis is the part of a design that catches the viewer's attention. Usually the artist will make one area stand out by contrasting it with other areas. The area could be different in size, color, texture, shape. Movement. Movement is the path the viewer's eyes take through the work of art or design, often a focal area. Such movements can be directed along lines, edges, shape, and color within the design to kind of direct the viewer's eyes to where you want them to focus on, what's important on the website that you want them to find and see right away. Pattern is the repeating of an object or symbol all over the design. Repetition works with pattern to make the design seem active. The repetition of elements of design creates a unity within the design. Proportion is the feeling of unity created when all the parts relate well with each other. Rhythm is created when one or more of the elements of design are used repeatedly to create a feeling of organized movement. Rhythm creates a mood like music or dancing, and to keep rhythm exciting and active, variety is essential. Variety is the use of several elements of design to hold the viewer's attention and guide the viewer's eye throughout the design. Unity is the feeling of harmony between all of the parts, which creates a sense of completeness. So once you take principles of design and combine them with elements of design. Elements are things like line, form, colors, type, all of that. So when you take these principles of design and you throw it in the mix with that, and you have the purpose and the problems that you're solving for, your design really begins to manifest from that. Okay, so this is a website that I had recently designed, just a screenshot example of it. So I just want to kind of talk about this for a minute in relation to emphasis and hierarchy. So as you can see, when you first come to this website, you're going to have this large rotating image area. And I think this was really important to the school, that they could showcase what their school is all about. They can kind of highlight things from their community, what's going on. They can obviously put pictures of their students and staff on there. So it's a really nice space that the school can utilize for really all kinds of different things. Next in the hierarchy is obviously the logo area. The reason this is kind of next down the line is most of the design uses different shades of gray. So when you have this big red logo there, obviously that's going to pull your attention, and it really emphasizes what site you're on, what school district you're viewing, and then the size of the logo obviously is pretty large. And then being in the upper left-hand corner there, everybody reads left to right, so your eyes are automatically going to the top left corner. So those are some of the things that come into play when designing a website like this, as far as how you want the viewer, the user, to navigate throughout the site, and what they're going to notice first, and how they're going to find what they're looking for. Okay, so this here is just kind of a simple list of my process. I'm sure it's different from designer to designer, but I usually begin with research, which is very important. You got to know what you're getting into. You got to know the details of the project, and then from there you can go into brainstorming. Out of that comes the initial concept, and then I would typically review that concept with the client, and then we would refine, revise, perfect, and then finally approve that design as we move forward. Just to kind of highlight one of the steps in that process, research. I feel that's a very, very vital and key step in the process, because you want to know what you're getting into as far as what problems you're trying to solve for. You want to know the goals that the client has for the website. That gives you time to pull in inspiration and resources that you would want to use, and also get any details, any little details that will be helpful as well. All right, so as far as having a well-designed website, let's talk about some of the benefits. So one of what I find to be really important is having a good user experience. When you have a good user experience, your users are going to stay on your site longer. They're going to find what they're looking for quicker, and they're really just going to have a much better experience on your site. And some of those things that tie into user experience, things like readability, having a good line length and a good readable font, the size of the font, all of that ties into readability. You want the user to navigate your site easily. You don't want them to feel lost or confused, so you need to really think about how the buttons are laid out and grouped together. It needs to be very rational. And then, of course, we want a pleasurable site to use. So just as an example, when you drive two different cars, and one's a beater and the other's kind of a nicer, more new car, obviously you're going to enjoy one more than the other. Even though they both do basically the same thing, they get you from point A to point B. But because one has been designed in such a way, such care has gone into it, all the little details and functionality and all that, you're going to have a much more enjoyable experience getting from point A to point B. And then accessibility is very important as well. You want as many people as possible to be able to access your site. Just a few other things that are important, or some other benefits of a well-designed site rather. Consistent brand identity, optimal functionality, effective content management. You'll be distinguished from your competitors or other school districts. You also have a site that is very polished and even in the little details, which enhances the quality of your site in the user's eye. And your website will also stand the test of time, so you're not having to go back and redesign your website every 6 months to a year. You can have a website that's going to last a long time and you're going to get a lot out of. So you really want to have a good design that can go the distance. And that'll also provide a solid foundation for progression. That way, as you move forward with your website and you want to add more content or features, you have a good foundation to build on. And then just a final thought to leave you with. One of the great things about having a designer, a professional designer to work with on your site is that they bring an objective perspective, obviously along with their creativity as well. But a lot of times there's things that you might want on your website, and sometimes there needs to be a compromise between what you want and what works on a web page. So your designer is really there to help you and guide you through that process. We want to serve you and do our best and give you the best solutions available. So really just lean on your designer, work with them. They're there to help you. And that's all I have. So thank you for all of your time, and I'm going to transition to Amber.
Oh, yes. Hello, everyone. As mentioned a couple of times, my name is Amber Wolf, and I have been a web designer here with Schoolwires for 7 years, but have actually been working professionally in the industry for 11. So over that course of time, I have learned a lot about web design and what makes for a great user experience. I got to tell you, my goals for any web design as a designer are to keep people coming back to your site way beyond trends. I don't like to really use trends as much because I want your website to have a great shelf life, and also I want to keep your viewers coming back time and time again. And I thought, what better way to kind of present that than to show you a great success story. I just had the privilege recently of working with Aspen School District. And it was an absolute pleasure working with them, and obviously they have a lot of great assets to work with. What a lot of people don't realize is your designer, well actually, great design comes from content, and your content is going to come from you and your school district. So one of the things that I always ask going into any project is, tell me a little bit about your district. Tell me a little bit about what makes your school district different from any other school district out there. And for Aspen, it was a little easier than a lot of, some of my other sites that I've worked on. Whenever I first started working with Aspen, this is what they showed me. That was their current site. And they told me they were kind of happy with this, but I pushed. That's part of my job. I'm going to push a little bit, dig a little bit deeper. And while this is kind of a great representation, I mean, they captured the mountains and everything, as far as content and keeping people engaged and coming back, there wasn't a whole lot keeping people coming back and coming back. There wasn't an easy way even for them to go in and update any of their information. So you'll notice things like in the top right-hand corner, there's a static calendar that doesn't really give you any information. Great, it tells you what day it is, but I can look on my phone for that too. One of the areas that I did kind of hone in on was their image area that you will very blatantly see, and it also tells a little bit of a story. And I kind of dug in a little deeper, and I've been asking them questions like, what's great about your area? What's your community like? And they offered up that they have great outdoor education classes and everything, which made me very jealous. So in working with their new design, one of the first things that, since they had the imagery there, we worked with a very large rotating image area, which it's so much more than that. Anymore, you can use the functionality of this to tell stories. I actually storyboarded out some slides for them, and we dug in and got some more information. They take tests outside. And that's something that you should really highlight. So be thinking, like, what is different about my school? What can I really show? And an image is worth 1,000 words. And this really brings people in. Can I just say, I just took a look at their Google stats right before I came in here, and since this launched late October, there has been more than 500,000 hits on their site. So it's working. So for this particular slide, one of my goals is to make this really super easy for anyone to update. So we kind of created areas on here where they could very easily go in. They add their image, so super simple, and then they can add in like a header. I designed some, interesting typography for their header to kind of grab people. A little bit of teaser text, not a lot, because guess what? People don't really read that much. And a link to read more. And that's for the people that are really into it and they want to learn more. Another thing I found out about them was that they were ranked, their high school was ranked #1 in Colorado, and not only that, but they have a beautiful high school. Definitely makes me wish I would have went to school there, but that's something to tout. These are things to kind of highlight, and you can really do that with graphics. It's very, very easy, and work with your designer. Well, it's easy for us, but I mean, there's just simple things that you can do to really highlight, create a banner, work with a little bit of typography, just anything. And this last slide was definitely important because one of the things that they wanted to do was really get their community engaged with their site. They wanted people to use their site. And keeping their whole theme in mind, Chris from Aspen said, we want our audience to log into our site and make the most out of it. So how I did this, and you'll notice the details all throughout the site, but created kind of a little backpack going off of the whole outdoors theme. And this is kind of like their user backpack. This is where they can go to log into their site. And we really kind of highlighted this and put this in the top right-hand corner, which is some pretty valuable real estate. And then it never hurts to reinforce, especially whenever you're first launching or you're first trying to get information out. Put it in multiple places on your site, really reinforce it. So the way that I reinforce this for them, there's a picture of some people backpacking. There's the backpack icon again, and then, make the most out of our site. Spell it out, learn how. So you can click and read more. It spells out, how you can log in and really utilize more information from the site. And like I said, there are a lot of details in this design. And it was really easy to go overboard with Aspen. Sometimes you got to stretch a little more. You can use different elements from your logo. Think about your branding, your colors, your message, your vision and mission statements and everything. Really go hand in hand to reinforce and tie into the design as much as possible. I used all kinds of elements from the outdoors kind of theme because that's their community, and it really resonates well with their users. So the backpack icons, the little hikers for the left and right to toggle through their rotating photo gallery. Even as far as their home button is actually designed to look like their high school with a little home sitting at the bottom of the mountain range. Just everything. And I love to add a little tiny bit of quirk. It just, kind of sits well with people, resonates with people. So to scroll back up to the top of the site, once you hit the bottom, it says to the peak. Just a little bit of quirk, little bit. Don't go overboard. Another thing that really ties in well whenever it comes to design is the use of functionality. So, make it easy for people to navigate through your site. Use little call outs. If you check out their site, once you land on their homepage, you'll see, it takes up the image takes up the full width of the screen. That's designed on purpose. Check out our imagery, and these are our headlines and features right here, right there for you. But if you want to see more information, there's a little cue. It bounces just a little bit to scroll you down to more information on the page. And whenever you do scroll down or you do hit the button, it very strategically places you with the navigation at the top. This is designed on purpose so that you don't ever lose your navigation. Make it easy for people to navigate through your site. So if you take a look at their content information, we've laid it out in a really nice way based on some of the things that they were trying to call out and highlight to their users. So if you look at this, and I wish I could really just point here for you guys, but there's such a thing called an F pattern. And basically the way that it works is the navigation ties into the top part of the F. Their latest events is something they really wanted to highlight, so it kind of creates the base of the F there. And then the filler space is kind of the areas that aren't really highlighted as much, but are still pretty vital information, which you can easily scan through and recognize and see. So just think about your typography and how you lay out, like Kyle was talking about, the hierarchies and everything. And then also, any kind of information that you have about your site or your district, like for Colorado, they had an accreditation. So put that on your website. You can design that up. You can go out and find free graphics that let you kind of build out a little, something extra to really just kind of add some emphasis on your site. And to kind of reinforce what Kyle was saying about hierarchy, and like I was saying, people don't really read through your site, so putting a bunch of wordy information may not work out as well. Let me just show you what people might really be seeing whenever they're skimming through your site. You'll notice that some of the information did disappear, and that's kind of filler stuff that whenever they're scanning through and that title that's being called out isn't really relevant, they're not going to read the rest of it. So, definitely emphasize, highlight, and if somebody is really interested, they will read more. All right, and of course, whenever you start strong, you should end strong. So with the footer, you don't spare any details there either, because it's statistically proven that 90 to 96% of people are going to go directly down to the footer. One, because people just want to see how long the page is, and two, they're down there looking for ways to get a hold of you, your contact information, and also if you are on social media, that is where they're looking for this. Of course, I've reinforced my whole mountain theme down in the bottom, making it very easy placing the phone number off to the side, because whenever you're clicking with your iPhones or anything like that, it's really easy to hit that button and to make a direct call. Also, I cannot stress enough that having social media of any sort is a really good idea, because it's really going to keep your community engaged, because you can guarantee that maybe they're not looking at your site every day, but somebody's on Facebook or Twitter or something. So, it never hurts to be right there in their face. And there's all kinds of really, really cool icons out there. I know I'm one to, I'm not going to say go icon crazy, but I love to go and specify icons for each individual website that I work on. All right, whenever we bring that all together, guys, I mean, it really created a great overall user experience and a great design. And that all stemmed from being able to work with, some great clients that were open to, some design input, and also having some great content to stem from. So I just want to thank everyone from your time, and really appreciate that you're all here with us. And I'm going to turn this back over to Gina, and we're going to do some questions and answers.
Hi, so those were both great presentations from Amber and Kyle, and I bet you have a lot of questions. So we did want to leave plenty of time for questions and maybe even be able to show you some examples and that kind of thing. So if we could get a few questions, that would be great.
I saw someone ask about the responsive piece of my.
No, I don't think that that would be any type of standard feature. This particular school district lent itself very well to that type of treatment. And I'm going to actually pass you over to Amber to really dig into why Aspen, that was a good solution for what Aspen was trying to do.
Yeah, especially for Aspen, I mean, they obviously had some great area to take pictures of and everything, and maybe not all schools necessarily have that, and that's okay. You don't have to use a full-size image to really get out some messaging and everything like that, but for them it made sense because they had the ability to be able to take really great pictures, and it just worked really well with their website. Let's see what else we have. Yes.
That's you.
Okay. Yeah, if you actually want to check out Aspen on any of your devices, I highly encourage it because that one was responsive. I didn't have enough time to go through all of it. I just kind of wanted to focus on really, engaging people into the site. But yes, it is designed for responsive. It is strategically laid out at each level to be really easy for people to access on their mobile devices and everything else. So if you want to check it out, aspenk12.net. Go ahead, check it out.
Maybe read the question too, because they probably don't know which.
Okay. Let's see here. Peggy George from Phoenix, Arizona. Are the tabs across the top the same as Find It Fast links? No. The Find It Fast is, I'm going to always suggest 7 or less. Really quick links that might be dug down into your site a little bit more, but that your audience and your viewers are constantly looking for. Some of the things that people pull out are like lunch menus or any kind of forms that are coming up that people need to access and that you're getting phone calls about. Anything that might be dug, that takes 2 or more clicks to get to, but people look for. So definitely different.
Lynn Meeks from Birmingham, Alabama asks, who maintains the Aspen site? Is it locally maintained or does SchoolWires do all of the updating, etc.? And I want to answer that one because that really goes back to the value of a content management system. So although we do the design here and the designers worked on the design, you always have to consider who are the people that are going to be working on that website and how can they keep the design fresh and make the content on that design something that parents and the community want to engage in. I think we've all had that experience where we've gone to a website and it was a great website, maybe a week, maybe a month later, maybe even 2 months later, we went back to that website thinking, oh, it was so exciting the first time I went there, and you go back and it's the same exact website. So the fact that we are designing around a content management system is actually of a great benefit to the design itself, and we always want to make sure that anything that we design can be easily updated so that there are frequent updates. So when you look at one of these designs, you say, that looks great now. And I do. I'll be honest with you. I do go to the designers and I say, that looks great now. That looks great with that large image and those images that you prepared. How is that going to look after a year, after 2 years, after 3 years of the community engaging, the staff and the teachers going in and adding content to that? How do you make it easy to maintain that website and look fantastic, not only today, but for the lifetime of it? So a lot of the different things you'll see, that one of the things that Amber was showing you with the Aspen design is there was a large image area, and then some of those overlays, those words that were on, they look like they were part of the image, but they weren't. So to update that website, it's just as simple as going out the back door, taking a picture of the beautiful environment, bringing that back in, writing a great story about that, linking to that story, putting in a title and caption, and the design comes together through the content management system. So no, we are not in charge of updating it, but we, as designers, what they are in charge of doing is making it, when somebody does take the time and energy to go into their website, that time and energy is leveraged to the utmost and communicates to the community and gets the parents involved with the website.
That's probably what you can do too.
Kim B. from Connecticut. Are all SchoolWire sites mobile devices ready? I'm going to go ahead and answer this one too. No, not all SchoolWire's websites are mobile device ready, although we do have a solution for the mobile device market for every one of our clients. So everybody needs to be thoughtful at this time in the internet market that up about 50% or sometimes even more, depending on where you live, of your viewers are going to be coming there on some type of mobile device. It's extremely important. But how do you actually make that work and stay within budget? So we actually have several different solutions so that everybody who is a SchoolWires client will be able to have something to present to their mobile users other than a website that was created, a Pension Zoom website that was created for a PC. So we have several different solutions. Glenn Cheritz from New York. Did he mention the importance of mobile device users? I was a bit late. So Glenn, we were actually just talking about that. And our research is showing maybe a little bit below 50%. And if you talk about the entire United States or all websites, but in some areas even higher than 50%, people are coming to your website using a mobile platform, either a phone or some type of tablet. So I think it's probably the most important thing right now, so that you don't lose 50% of your audience, that you have a website that is that works on a mobile device. So there are several different ways to get to that. Here in Creative, we truly believe that the very first response to that is a responsive template. Even if you have other ideas in mind in how to present on devices, a responsive template does allow your entire website to be used and fully utilized online. Now, are there other different solutions? Yes, there are. If your budget doesn't allow that, to present some of your website assets online, that's another solution. Or to actually have apps for a special experience for those parents or those people in the community that are highly engaged in the school and in the website, and they would want to download and have that app available on their device at all times. That is also an excellent solution. But depending on where you're at are you just now for the very first time getting a website? Where are you at in your maturity model? That's something that you would really want to talk about, but you definitely want to be moving into the mobile device market. So Peggy George from Phoenix, Arizona asked, does the revolving header on this site require more bandwidth for the page to load? And I'm going to go ahead and answer that one too. So all of the imagery that you see on a website is optimized, and it needs to be optimized. And our system actually does some level of optimization when those images are uploaded. So since you can only see so much of an image, no matter how detailed that image was when you uploaded it, we tend to optimize for the internet or the web so that there is less pixels per inch, simply because that's just as many as you can see anyways. So that's an important consideration. You don't want things to large revolving images than when you get down to the device, because at the device level, you may actually even have less bandwidth. So that is a very important consideration, that you would want the PC view to be optimized and those imagery optimized, and then you're not really going to have a bandwidth issue. Also, it's just a little bit about how do you load the images. So if you load all the images as soon as the website opens, you are going to have a bandwidth issue. But if you only load the images as people are viewing them, which is the way we do this, that really does help with bandwidth usage. It still creates the great effect, but if you're only on the website to go to somewhere else, maybe you're only loading one image. If you're actually sitting and watching the rotator go through, then you're going to load a few images, but it's not going to be all at one time. Can you offer recommendations for districts who cannot afford designers and sophisticated sites like Aspen's? And actually, I'm going to pass this over to the designers, because I think they do actually have some ideas on this.
Yeah, I mean, certainly within SchoolWires, we do we have a library, template library of design-ready templates. So these are, a little more affordable if you can't, say, afford a custom template for your school's website. But as far as just in general design, talking general design, if you don't have a designer to work with you on your site, I would just say to keep your website simple. You don't want to bog down. You don't want to clutter your website with as much information as you can possibly put on it. Try to keep it clean and stick to what's most important to your users. And like I said, don't try to put everything on your home page, because if everything is so important, then nothing's really important, and users can get lost in all that information. So really try to figure out what's important to your users, and keep it simple is what I would say.
Never use Comic Sans, ever. Just never use Comic Sans, and you'll be good.
Libby Nicholson, sorry about that, from Virginia. I'm here as a teacher to beef up my parent use of my classroom blog. Any suggestions to encourage that? I think that many of the things that we're talking about right now do relate down to the page level. So it is very important that when you are going to update your website, that you always evaluate when you're looking at the web, what is the most important thing. You may only have about 10 to 15 seconds, really, to grab somebody's attention. So you want the parents to read your classroom blog. Parents love pictures of kids. So if you can add maybe something that grabs their attention about the kids, and then keep your blog post short, sweet, and to the point, I think what I've heard is you write it out and then you try to remove 30% of what you wrote. And then if it still seems long, go ahead and try to remove another 30%. So this isn't college where you have to have a certain length paper. You want to try to get the information across in the least amount of words as possible, using as much graphic imagery as possible, because that's just how the internet is. I'm going to let Amber answer this one.
Michelle DePorto, that name sounds familiar, from Birdville ISD. How do you recommend districts to prioritize content for designers and sophisticated sites? Okay. All right. So, really, whenever you're trying to prioritize your information, reading a website is just like reading a book. Your utmost important information is in your top left-hand corner. So if you're finding that people are constantly trying to check out what's going on in your district via your calendar, I'm going to suggest that you put your upcoming events in the top left-hand corner. And this also goes back to the responsive views as well, because if you have, let's just say, a 3-column layout, with your left-hand column, your middle, and your right. The first piece of information to go underneath and become the last thing that you're going to see is what's on the right-hand side. So try to think of what, and even if you have like Google Statistics or anything like that, those are great to find out what are people coming to your site to look for and access, and then use that to kind of build out. And don't put everything in your left-hand column. That's not going to make it the most important and have everyone be able to read it. That's just going to stack and make your page long. But try to prioritize that way. Most important information, top left-hand corner.
I see a question on here. Just saying, let me see here. Oh, Jim Watkins from Jefferson County Schools. I remember you. So Comic Sans is out. What is in? He's asking. What are some top fonts for websites? Well, really, with fonts, fonts are designed as well. They're not, obviously you have a ton of different styles of fonts, but Comic Sans was not designed to be very readable. So it's not really about what is the most popular fonts nowadays and things like that, but what is readable, what actually works. And Comic Sans, sorry, there's a little side note from my fellow designer. Comic Sans is kind of more of a fun font you can use. I don't use it at all ever, but it's
unsophisticated, and it looks like clown pants. And if you want to be taken seriously, don't use clown pants.
But there's situations when you might want to use it, so it really comes down to the situation and the purpose of the font. If it's just for fun, you can throw in Comic Sans, but as a designer, I would never use Comic Sans just because it's not readable, and I can always find fun fonts that are still very readable and sophisticated and more modern and just work well. So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just want to let everyone know real quick, if you're looking for fonts, Google Fonts, amazing. Just go to google.com/fonts. These are all fonts that are designed to work on the web for everyone to be able to use, and that's really opened up the whole realm of the web-safe fonts, so check that out.
Here's another question. This is from Victoria Tang from Edison. What are some small, simple, but effective ways to enhance a website without doing a complete overhaul or changing a template? I would say rethink your content. Maybe you can rearrange some of your content. Maybe take some new pictures to update on your photo gallery. But really, I would say it goes back to content, having quality content and not overloading with a lot of content, but helpful content would be a way to improve your website without redesigning it. So, like I said, again, it goes back to just rethinking your content and how you can best get that content across to your user.
Okay, I'll grab this one. So you have a very information dense site, which is fantastic. But does all that information need to be on the homepage? Are there ways that you can bring people into the website? Now, at one time people said, oh, there's a click count. If you have to click 2 or 3 times, people are not going to be engaged in that content. People have to click twice. They'll be less engaged in that content. But when people come to a website, they want to be engaged with something. They're not going there because they have absolutely nothing else to do. Not necessarily true, because I have sat waiting for somebody to come out of an event, and I just really had nothing else to do, and I was on my phone. But for the most part, they're coming to the website. They want to be there. They're looking to be engaged. Does everything that you want them to read or see have to be on the homepage? No. A well-organized space that says, okay, if I'm a parent, this would be a good place for me to look. If I'm staff, this would be a good place for me to look. If I'm a student, this will be a good place for me to look. And then I can ignore the rest of it. That will pull me into those lower levels, into the web space. So that's something that you really want to think about. Don't put all your content right out front, because that's confusing. People aren't going to be engaged with it. Whereas if you can put links to that content in an organized way that helps me become more involved in the website, I will dig down and find that stuff. How do you effectively incorporate SEO objectives when designing templates?
Search engine optimization. I think that's more of a content-related issue.
Oh, yeah.
That's a somewhat content-related issue and a development issue. So SEO, it's very important, of course, to do a lot of with SEO objectives. It's important to make sure that all of your imagery is labeled properly. It's important to have great content that is updated frequently. So how do you effectively incorporate SEO objectives? You make it a design that lends itself well to frequent updates. So you don't want to do a design that takes somebody that has Photoshop to update. You want to do a design where somebody can type in a few words and it updates. SEO is mainly, your SEO is going to be having fresh, new content daily, if not more frequently than that. The rest of it is really more of a development problem that the developers are going to be thinking about. And also, the people that are putting the content in, making sure that it is good content that makes a lot of sense for the site. So, question, how do we add things from the internet into our sites? Well, there are a lot of different ways to do that, depending on what your solution is. I know here at SchoolWires we have an embed code app. So many of the big sites out there do have little bits and pieces of code. I don't know. I've been to YouTube, and underneath every YouTube video, you click on a button, it shows you an embed. If you can take that and paste it straight into a page, now you don't redirect people over to YouTube. People stay engaged in your site because you're able to play YouTube videos. So many of the big sites have that embeddability. I would definitely want to check with your web service provider and make sure that they have made it easy for you to be able to use those embed codes on your actual website. And I do think with the portability that this presents, the portability that you can take something from one website and embed it into another website, that is a very important consideration that you would want to take into account as you're looking at your solutions. So how do you give attribution for your photos when they are part of your design? We don't. If they are part of the design, they are something we either purchased or something that the school themselves were able to provide, and then we just kind of worked around what they already provided.
This is a question from Tina Taylor from Noose's Canyon, I believe. Oh, it went away. Where'd it go? There we go. Okay. Do you have a maximum number of clicks that should be between the home page and the information needed? There's not really a set rule on how many clicks there should be between your home page and, say, subpage information that a user is looking for. Definitely, I would. What's that?
The less the better.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, the less the better. So if you can have it, down to 1 or 2 clicks, that would be ideal. But there's really no set number of clicks needed.
And actually, with really good headers and really good information pointing, you can actually get people to click all day long. It's whenever they get confused. So you got to have a good hierarchy on every page and a well-developed navigation model, and then the clicking becomes a non-issue.
What's that? Yeah, I didn't. So Heidi from Los Angeles is asking, is the design on the Santa Ana page what's available with all SchoolWire's web page software? And I'm not sure I understand that question completely, but I would say that it's available with all of our Sapphire templates that we offer here. Which is our top custom template that you can purchase. And with that, you get 2 JavaScript apps, and you get the ability to change colors from site to site. So it really depends on what package you get with us. But
indirect access to a designer, I said it does depend on the package. The Ruby package and the Sapphire package do provide direct access to a designer made from scratch. But even with our what we call our design ready templates, we do provide a designer to help you with colors, logos. So I would say that the quality of design that you get is possible to get at any price range with SchoolWires. Do you want that to be a design that nobody else has ever used before? That is really when you're moving up. Or if you have special needs, special things that are going on within your community that you want to highlight in a slightly different way than maybe somebody else would, that again would kind of argue that you might want to work directly with a designer. Are there any image websites that teachers and corporations can use that provide 100% free images for use?
All right, so there's not a lot of great websites that offer free images. But one that I will use on occasion, it's www.sxc.com. I believe it's .com, but check out that site. They do offer some pretty decent free images. And I don't know if Amber has any other sites, but that's one that I particularly will use for free images.
Yeah, definitely. If you're supposed to tailor your content to your target audiences, and for a lot of districts, we find that, they have a variety of target audiences. Those are the most common: parents, staff, students, and community. You can definitely set up in your navigation and have specific channels that only have information for parents, for staff, for students. We also pull these out and specialize different quick links, that find it fast kind of area with the headings for parents, and then only have links for them, and so on and so forth. So it's a great way to kind of engage each of your audiences without having them drill down through all of the information.
Oh, somebody was asking about the website I just said. It's not XSU, it's SXU. So S as
Can you
in
type it
Sam.
into the
Yeah, I'll just type it in for you.
into the chat window? We don't want anybody going to any pages because they've typed that in wrong.
SXXU. Or maybe it's SXC. I think it's XXU. Off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure this is what it is. Fingers crossed.
So Courtney Smith from Sterling City ISD was asking about the Google statistics and was wondering how people can see what you are, or what they're trying to see on the website. I know with our SchoolWire system that we do integrate the Google statistics, and it's as easy as going in and checking out the different counters and everything. You can go to Google, and I believe that there are some different apps and things that you can integrate into your site. I can't technically get into that and describe how to do it, but you can definitely go in and kind of learn a little more about that. Peggy George from Phoenix, Arizona. Does a district school website load in a SchoolWire's app, or are you just viewing it directly on their website with your browser on your mobile device? What was that again? Let me see if I can wrap my head around this.
Probably Gmail, maybe.
Website load in the SchoolWire's app, or you just...
Peggy, we have a variety of solutions for the mobile device market. So, yes, we do have apps. We then in the iOS app and the Google app, you can actually load pages from your website in there, along with some of the more device-oriented types of information, such as mapping, that kind of thing. We also have the full responsive design. So that would be, if you chose to go in that direction, that would be your actual website, the full content from that website, simply modified to look nice without any kind of pinching or zooming, and with optimized navigation for a device. And then we actually have a solution that will allow you to put a subset of your information on the website, for device use, the most important information. So all three of those are extremely valid, and again, it is just really all about where you are in your maturity model and how far you've come along with getting using your website to increase parent involvement and community engagement. Are there different versions of SchoolWires geared for schools, districts, or division offices? Content layout does vary a lot. And no, we really only have one version of SchoolWire, so the Centricity 2 content management system is very core to our system. There is only one of those. Now, let's talk about that a little bit. So when that information then comes back out to the audience, so there's a variety of different ways for that information to come out. So that's what you're seeing, that content layout does vary a lot. Of course, content does, because most of the content you see is provided by people at the school and at the district. The layout is going to vary a lot, and that is going to increase more and more and more. Same content, right now we're seeing it on a PC. Sometimes we'll see it on a phone. You'll see in the very near future, I know that a school very close to where I live, they have kiosks. They have 7 kiosks throughout the school. So creating content for those kiosks right now is its own operation, whereas they are looking into a solution where they can simply reuse some of the content from their website and reformat it for a kiosk environment. So SchoolWires is aware that that is happening, and we are very involved with getting people or teaching people how to enter information so it can be used and viewed in a variety of different ways. So that's where you're seeing that very large variety in content and how it's displayed. Because how it's displayed is more important than the environment it's in. But what you're displaying is really very much driven by the people who are putting the content in, and it's very important. Can you recommend a site as an example? Kim, I don't have that example on me right now, but if I could take that offline, I know that I do have several examples that I could send out to you. Because even though right today we are really involved in talking about parent involvement and community engagement with 5 children either in or just recently in the K-12 system, I think that student involvement and student engagement is just as important as anything else we've been talking about today.
Okay.
I'll read it too. I don't know if they can see.
When designing a website, is there any specific design that needs to be applied or followed, or is it individual? Whenever it comes to our custom packages, when you're working one-on-one with us, we're going to sit down and gather as much information as possible from you guys to get you a site that is uniquely for your school or your district. And to make sure that it encompasses and it really shows you off. I know that we run into an issue of people taking a look at our portfolio and thinking that they're going to come in and actually pick one of those templates and that we're just going to reskin it with your information, like your colors and your logos. That's not the case. Each of our clients comes in and we give them specialized treatment as far as, helping them out and really creating a design that's unique to them and their own.
I just want to add too, even with our made-to-order, that's with our made-to-order templates, even with our design, turn this a little bit, sorry, probably getting dizzy watching us spin this laptop around. But even with our design ready is what we call some of our templates that have a predefined layout that you can add colors, logos, and other information. A lot of that is very configurable, and we even see with the exact same layout that clients can take that and really reconfigure it to suit their school district, what's most important. And with that configuration, then you end up with what is almost a unique design in and of itself. So I would say that, what Kyle was talking about earlier, that you don't skimp on the research. You really look into what are people looking for when they come to our site, who's coming to our site. Or is it parents? Is it people from the community? Or is it students? Is it all 3 of those? And then really configure the site to lean in. Maybe you are getting all your parents are in your website, but your students aren't in your website. What can you do differently to engage your students? Let's move that up in the hierarchy of information. Or your students are all over the website, but your parents aren't engaged. What is it your parents want to see? What are they talking about when you meet with them? So engage the people in the school. Ask them, what does the parents want to know? What does the students want to know? What do we need to feed back to the community? I know right here in State College we're doing a building plan for the high school. Very important, huge project. Will be increasing people's taxes. The community really wants to know about that. So engage them in that process. Let them know what's happening with the building plan. Let them know, is it on target, not on target. That's very big right now. So no, you can't. 5 years ago or 4 years ago, before this was an initiative, that would not have been important. So even when I say this school has one data model, another school has another, that can also change over time. It's just like anything else you do. It's a conversation. If the conversation is getting boring, change the subject. Just like right now, I feel like I've over-talked this issue, so let's move on to another question.
Sure. I'm going to type into the chat box here. I'm trying to think of some different ones. I'm racking my brain, and I don't know their URLs offhand, but type into the Google. That's an amazing search engine, right? Wiley ISD. Also, and I think they're out there, Dallas ISD. ISD? Mm-hmm. They're not using the full width images or anything like that, but still pretty effective sites. Actually, really effective sites.
San Diego has a smaller image area as well, don't they?
They still have a pretty decent one. Different templates that San Diego is using definitely do utilize smaller imagery, though.
But the image area itself is extremely effective in grabbing attention.
Yes.
So not to be confused with little rotators that were used just as recently as 3 or 4 years ago for decoration. They definitely have a purpose and a function, which is to grab attention and lead people further into the site, also to push information out to people.
All right. Just got another question here. Is there any way to plug in a different WYSIWYG editor or use a different one? That is actually part of our product. What's that?
I have a little bit to say about the WYSIWYG editor as well.
Turn this over.
Okay. No, but let's talk about data. Do you really want to be putting something into a WYSIWYG editor, formatting it for the internet, and then finding out that that information is important enough to be pushing out to devices in an iOS app or or on a kiosk? So what SchoolWires is starting to move towards, and you can keep giving us feedback on how this is working, is to provide apps, specialized apps for your data, for the information you're putting in, so that maybe not today, but sometime that information and all that work and effort you put into getting that information into the product, Centricity 2 product, can be used not necessarily just on the website, but all kinds of different places. So yeah, it would be great if we could plug in a different WYSIWYG editor, but we've tried every single one and none of them are error proof. And most people in the web space are moving away from WYSIWYG editors and putting in the data so that it can be divorced from how it looks. The WYSIWYG editor mixes the two. You want to get away from that and quit mixing the two. For those of us who do not have a designer in our district and are in charge of a school web page, can you give us some resources for icons, graphics, page layouts, etc.? And Amber is, oh yeah, probably not something we can do in terms of today's webinar, but Barbara,
some resources.
Yep. If we could get some contact information, we would be very happy to work with you on some of the different resources that we use here in-house, and many of them are actually free. We do have a few paid-for solutions, but many of the things that we're doing here, we're finding for free.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna, I'm gonna type this in here. One big one that I use, I just kind of typed it in there for everyone to see. Iconfinder.com, awesome.
Can you talk more about strategies for parent involvement? Can you show us the experience after a parent is logged in? So actually, I would really love to do something in the future about the My View, which is a personalized experience built around your role, who you are, and what your relationships are at the school. And I think in the future, you're going to be hearing more and more about that in terms of websites. So just like in your social media, when I log into Facebook, I'm only seeing the media that was meant for me as an individual. So as we all move into this a little bit deeper, so most information you'll see on SchoolWire's websites is presented to everybody, and it's not set up with roles in mind, but there are certainly things that are going on to make that a much more personalized experience. But I think that is a bigger conversation and not especially design related for today. All right, do we have any more questions for today then? Great. All right, so it was really great talking to everybody today, and I really hope that if you have any more questions or thoughts, concerns, feedback, that you can make sure that we get that. That'll get to Deborah and come over to us, and we're really very happy to ask questions. These guys just live and breathe and think design all the time, and they were so excited to be here with you today. So thank you guys very much for being a really great audience.
Thank you, everybody.